Hello, bonjour, buongiorno, welcome to your new Bonner Private Wines video where we learn about fine wine together weekly. Brought to you by the best wine club in America, the Bonner Private Wine Partnership. I'm your host, Julien Miquel, Bordeaux-trained French winemaker, and yes, I did work in Italy as well as a winemaker in my winemaking career at making indeed Super Tuscan wines in the heart of the beautiful, delightful Tuscany. It was such a nice time. Today I want to explore and explain what are Super Tuscan wines. If you're wondering just that, why are they so called super? Are they really super? And which ones should you try before you die? Look no further, here is a quick explanation for you. You probably know it, Tuscany has historically virtually always made wine, and rather good wine at that, based on the local Sangiovese grape. Every region in Italy has its own grape, it's Sangiovese in Tuscany. But after World War II, well, the Chianti area in particular, located right in between the ever-competing major Tuscan cities of Siena and Florence, they destroyed their own reputation globally by becoming synonymous with cheap, ordinary wine, sold often in a straw flask that the Italians traditionally called the fiasco bottle. That's the name of this shape of bottle, and indeed this mediocre pizza wine marketing approach really was a fiasco for Chianti and its reputation. To bring about their own renaissance of wine in Tuscany in the 1970s, some wine producers like Antinori introduced the idea of blending foreign grape varieties, Bordeaux grape varieties in particular, to the local Sangiovese. Their problem was that the local Tuscan wine authorities said that you couldn't call a wine a Chianti if it contained French grapes like Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot, even if it was a better wine. Those were foreign grapes, it's not Chianti. So they had to drop the name Chianti off the wine labels. Now you may be thinking to yourself at this point, this made those wines become non-Chianti wines to become therefore Tuscan wines, not super. But let me explain what actually made them Super Tuscans. Sangiovese is a great grape. I love it personally as a winemaker, and believe me, I made Sangiovese wine myself with my own hands in Tuscany and tasting the grapes and transforming the wine to make it so special. But Sangiovese is quite a tricky grape to make good wine from. You need quite a lot of different particular conditions, good terroir, some altitude, that's why it's in the hills only in Tuscany that the best Sangioveses are made, low yields, particular conditions to bring in those soft, enjoyable tannins and a balanced acidity. As a contrast, French grapes from Bordeaux, Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot can easily bring in those soft and dense tannins that we love, and they're famous for being versatile and producing excellent wines virtually everywhere around the world, regardless of the terroir. So it makes sense to use them, at least in small proportions, to improve, or let's say complement, the qualities and the typicity of Sangiovese. And this is essentially, well, this is the essence of what Super Tuscans are. Wines made from French grapes, foreign grapes in Tuscany, and not using the traditional local Tuscan appellation names. Initially, those wines were made within or around the traditional appellation areas like the Chianti area, the Brunello di Montalcino, around the village of Montalcino or Montepulciano, etc. So growing those French grapes on some vineyard sites that were before dedicated to Sangiovese or other local grapes. But suddenly in Tuscany, when the Super Tuscan movement bloomed in the 70s and 80s, loads of new areas could make great wines using French grapes, where they could only make bad Sangiovese before, or ordinary Sangiovese before. That was the case on the coast of Tuscany in particular, and in the southern part, called the Maremma. They then discovered the clay coastal area called Bolgheri, which has now become the home of some of the best, most expensive and finest Italian wines like Ornellaia or Sassicaia, which we'll talk about in just a second. Essentially, a whole new world opened up in Tuscany, a super new world. A final very important point to know about Super Tuscans and understand them is that because these new wines could not use the famous names of traditional appellations like Brunello, Chianti or Vino Nobile, they had to invent original names for their wines, and they started giving each cuvée a very distinctive, easy to remember and impactful market name. Each wine a name. Let's look at a few of the most famous examples that you can find from Tuscany. If there is one name that you need to hear and perhaps remember when it comes to Super Tuscans, it's Tignanello, and I'll put a bottle of it right here, and not because it's the best or the most expensive, but because it is considered to have been the first, created by Antinori, the Marchesi Antinori, in 1971, blending 80% Sangiovese, so you know, it's still a Tuscan wine, 80% with 15% Cabernet Sauvignon and 5% Cap Franc. It sells at around $150 to $200 a bottle, so it's not ultra premium, but a great, now classic Super Tuscan it is. From the same producer and same property as Tignanello is the legendary Solaia, at around $400 a bottle. Solaia, one of those really recognizable names. The two Super Tuscan legends come from the coastal village of Bolgheri. You can call it the Pomerol of Tuscany, which are Sassicaia and Ornellaia, the most renowned and most expensive wines made in Tuscany. I want to make separate videos about these iconic wineries, so now would be the right time to subscribe, and while you're there, give us a like to support while you're browsing down there. Make sure to subscribe to not miss those episodes. There's also a legendary wine called Massetto, made by Ornellaia, one of the finest 100% Merlot on the planet, at least outside of Pomerol, and it was at one point the most expensive wine in Italy, although now the most expensive Italian wine is not a Super Tuscan, and I made a video about it, which is right here, and that you should definitely watch next and watch now. I'll see you soon in the wonderful world of wine. Cheers!